Okay, so let's get started. Just,
No, you can open it. Shut it. There's nobody here. Sorry.
so good evening, everyone. We'll call our meeting to order and adopt the agenda. Will be the first item of business. We have a recommendation that the agenda for the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of council be accepted and passed. Moved by Councillor Hearn, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I'll start with you, Councillor McCabe.
I have none.
I have none to declare. Councillor Hearn?
No.
Councillor Rankin?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. First item of business after that is our closed meeting session, and I have a recommendation to move us into that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North go into a meeting at 6:32 p.m. that is closed to the public under subsection 239, number 2 of the Municipal Act 2001, specifically to deal with personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Yeah, could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor McCabe and Councillor Hearn, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. So we're in closed. Session at 6:41 p.m. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Thank you. All those in favor? It's carried. And coming out of closed session, we have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the CAO verbal report and Council approve the confidential direction to staff. Moved by Councillor Hearn, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. And to close it out, we have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North approve the closed meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025 council meeting. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. So I'll recess till 7 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Okay, it's 7 o'clock by my watch, so we'll resume our regular council meeting. And the first order of business at this point would be just to rise for O Canada, if we could. You ready for that, Karen? Thanks, everybody. Some new video footage to go with the anthem, too. Very nice. Okay, next up is our county council update, and I see Campbell Cork is here to share his wisdom with us. Do we have a microphone for Campbell?
How's that? Good. Good. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here on this beautiful spring-like evening. Going to talk about public health. And we most often hear about public health when maybe they close a restaurant or tell us we shouldn't get tattoos from strange people that aren't qualified to do the job, or warn us about sexually transmitted diseases. But I've recently begun as a director on the Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph Board of Health, and as a representative of Wellington County. And I'm learning that there's a lot more than meets the eye about the Board of Health. Some of the many things they do, that aren't, they're kind of under the radar, but dealing with childhood obesity and maybe a little higher on the radar these days with measles and what's happening around here, but they have safe needle drop-off sites. And one of the areas that really caught my interest was the public health surveillance of injuries due to falls and their efforts to prevent them. The health unit monitors injury-related emergency department visits, hospitalizations, and deaths, and breaks it down by geography, age, and sex. And these, I'm not going to quote you all the statistics, but they are available on the Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph website. But one statistic that jumps out to me is that injury-related emergency department visits and hospitalizations in Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph are higher in Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph than the provincial average. And it's not clear exactly why that's happening, but I guess about the only thing I could think possibly is the number of older folk retirees that we have in our population, and falls are certainly an issue for them. Falls account for more than 60% of injury-related emergency department visits and hospitalizations, and more than 40% of injury-related deaths. And the cost due to these injuries has been estimated in past years at $250 million, that's $1 billion annually, which is quite a figure. Another area involves ticks and mosquitoes that they look after. The north end of Wellington County isn't exactly a hotbed of high risk for black-leg tick, the tick that's thought to be responsible for Lyme disease, but we do have some, maybe our share, but the numbers get worse as the further south you go in the county. There were 26 confirmed cases of Lyme disease in Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph in 2024, which surprised me, which is up 30% from 23. Public health hosts tick identification workshops, and it also puts up information posters in walking areas, trails, parks, those kinds of areas where people could be interacting with ticks. And this information includes a QR code for submitting photos of ticks that you might find on your legs or elbows or armpits that you want to know about. And that information is also on the website if you want to know more about that. Blackleg ticks and dog ticks are our two most common ticks in this area. They deal with West Nile virus. They monitor mosquitoes responsible for the virus. And I guess the good news is that samples tested here for West Nile virus, there was only one case reported in Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph. But possibly helping with some of that is the fact that public health here in Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph performed 104,000 larvicide treatments in catch basins, which in 24, and standing waters such as found in catch basins is a prime breeding ground for the mosquitoes. Public health also participates in programs for trying to pick up and eliminate things like that could possibly hold stagnant water, you know, in ditches and curbsides and whatnot, like coffee cups and pop bottles and that sort of thing. Another area they look after is dental care for seniors. They host promotional campaigns for provincial and federal senior dental care programs. And they're working to provide community screening blitzes to help seniors avail themselves of the Canadian Dental Care Program, and providing seniors with a list of dental services near home to ensure that they leave these blitz meetings with a workable plan of action. And with the introduction of the Canadian Dental Care Program, newly qualified clients can usually see a dentist within a week or two, and all emergency appointments are seen within hopefully 1 to 2 days. And we have heard that as time goes on, more and more of our dentists are participating in this program, which is really good news because that helps with waiting lists and with folks that need it. Avian flu, public health staff works with OMAFRA on reducing the effects of bird flu. Public health is particularly concerned when it, of course, starts to affect humans. And when avian influenza is detected in birds or animals, public health investigates any human exposure and tries to evaluate the risk of the disease spreading. Again, the good news is, since it's been identified in Canada, there've only been 1 case of human illness identified with bird flu. However, with widespread bird flu outbreaks, there, of course, is an increase in the risk for humans. I won't go on any further about the public health, Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph, but their website, wdgpublichealth.ca, holds a great amount of information. And if I may, just briefly on another topic, I just want to remind you of what you may or may not already know is that 109 east of Arthur, that construction is starting May 5th. And that is a big project that involves not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 bridges all in a row and not too far apart, which is very expensive. And the job is going to stretch into 2028, like it's almost 3 years. So I think there will be 1 lane open always. They're not going to be blocking traffic that way, but of course 1 lane, I'm imagining that'll involve lights or signalmen, so there will be delays, and anyone with oversized equipment who would have trouble with a 11-foot wide roadway will have to use an alternate route. So, and of course delays will be anticipated, so it will be a place to avoid if you at all can. And of course, for council here, if you are getting questions, and you very well might, the county is a good place to start. The roads department, Pasquale,
Stanza.
thank you, is the man. So I guess at this point, I would just say thank you for giving me the time to bring you a little news from the county. And if you have any questions, Andy'd be happy to answer them. I'll try first.
I was going to say thanks, Campbell, but no, I'm rethinking that. Does anybody have any questions for Campbell?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Campbell. And thanks for reminding us of sometimes something that's out of sight, out of mind.
It's like, oh, you guys are responsible for that too. So anyway, there's a lot more than I told you about, but that's enough.
Thanks. So we'll move on to, we've got a couple items under Committee of Adjustment tonight. So we're going to recess our regular council meeting to do that. I have a recommendation that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of council at 7:12 p.m. for the purpose of holding meetings under the Planning Act. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Hearn. Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. So we'll switch over to the Committee of Adjustments. We have two applications this evening. And I'll call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest on these two applications, A07/25 and A08/25. Councillor McCabe?
I have none.
I have none. Councillor Hearn?
No.
Councillor Rankin?
I have none.
All right, thank you. First, we'll deal with the meetings of the previous Committee of Adjustment meeting, and the recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of April 7th, 2025 for A06/25 be adopted as presented. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Rankin and Councillor Hearn, thank you. Questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to our first application. This is application A07/25 for 5053745 Ontario Inc. A location of the subject property is described as Mount Forest Town Plan, part lots 23 and 24, and is municipally known as 279 Fergus Street South. The property is approximately 0.18 hectares in size. Location of the property is shown on the map in your package. The purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from minimum required interior side yard requirements for a proposed 8-unit cluster stacked townhouses. The proposed variance will permit a reduced interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters in lieu of the minimum required interior side yard setback of 6 meters. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How was notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the property and as well sent to applicable agencies. Signage was posted on April 7th, 2025.
Zach, are you giving us the presentation on this one, please?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Through the chair, council may recall this application was presented at the December 4th, 2024 meeting, same property. The request at that time was for 4 street townhouses with 4 ARUs, and the relief being sought was for parking in the front yard. So the property at Fergus Street is zoned MU1, which allows all the residential uses within R3, so includes a variety of townhouses. Since the last meeting in December, the applicant and the township have had further discussions, and that's resulted in this development being better classified as a stacked townhouse, 8-unit stacked townhouse rather than a 4-unit street townhouse. So due to that reclassification, reinterpretation, there's additional relief being sought, one of them being the interior side yard setback. Since the notice, we've added a couple other reliefs as well, and 2 units are undersized when you consider them as stacked townhouses. That would be met in the bylaw if it was an ARU as originally presented. And the final item is just the lot area. The way it's calculated for a stacked townhouse versus a street townhouse is slightly different. So that those 3 reliefs are being presented today. As part of the resulting change, being that it's 8 units as a cluster stacked townhouse, the applicant could qualify for CMHC funding. So that's the main reason behind this. So the staff have no concerns with the additional relief, being that this will look and feel like a street townhouse. It's just a reinterpretation from the last meeting in December.
Thank you. We have correspondence from Saugeen Valley Conservation. Have we any further correspondence in respect to this application?
Yes, we received correspondence from the Wellington Source Water Protection and they have no concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any persons wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer. And with having said that, I will open the floor for questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? We don't have anyone registered online?
No.
Okay, not seeing too many takers here, so we'll switch over to committee members. Any questions, comments from committee members?
I have none. I have none.
Okay, I have just want some clarification, if I could, Zach, in regard to we haven't really, from a regulatory perspective, defined stacked townhouses and set standards for them in terms of separation distances and those types of things, correct?
Through the chair, the way the bylaw works right now is stacked townhouses are allowed as clusters in the regulations. I believe we're looking at that in the latest housekeeping laws, updating those regulations.
And so just based on your other comments too about some changes made in December, can you remind me what those changes?
The relief was for the parking in the front, in the front wall. So they have the parking in the garage and then 2 parking spaces in the driveway. So that's staying the same.
So that they're continuing to need that parking relief as well. Okay. Don't think I have anything else. Nobody else has anything else. All right, so we'll move right to the decision. And it will read as follows: that the minor variance applied for in application A07/25 for the property described as Mount Forest Town Plan, part lots 23 and 24, geographic town of Mount Forest, with a civic address of 279 Fergus Street South, to provide the following relief. Number 1, that a reduced interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters be permitted for a proposed 8-unit cluster stacked townhouse where the bylaw requires 6 meters. Number 2, that a reduced minimum unit size bachelor 1-bedroom of 39.9 square meters be permitted for a proposed 8-unit cluster stacked townhouse whereas the bylaw requires 51.1 square meters. Number 3, that a reduced lot area minimum of 1,871.48 square meters be permitted for a proposed 8-unit cluster stacked townhouse, whereas the bylaw requires 2,452.7 square meters. And number 4, that 1 permanent parking space be permitted in front of the front wall of each of the townhouse dwelling units, provided it is not within the front yard setback, to facilitate an 8-unit cluster stacked townhouse. All those in favor? That's approved. So that's the first application dealt with. We'll move to the second application. This is application A08/25 for Cleon Weber. The location of the subject property is described as West Owen Sound Road, Part Lot 4, Division 3, Registered Plan 61R8418, Part 1, and is municipally known as 9820 Highway 6. The property is approximately 1.96 hectares in size. The location of the property is shown on the map attached. Purpose and effect of the application is provide relief from the minimum required interior side yard requirements, facilitate replacement of 2 existing grain bins with 1 larger bin. The new bin is proposed to be closer to the lot line than the existing grain bins. The proposed variance will permit a reduced interior side yard setback of 3.9 meters in lieu of a minimum required interior side yard setback of 18.3 meters. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. That was notice given for this public meeting.
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property and as well sent to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on April 7th, 2025.
Okay, we'll move on to the presentations. Asvari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of committee. The purpose of this application is to provide relief from the minimum interior side yard setback requirements to facilitate replacement of 2 existing grain bins with 1 larger bin. The subject property is designated as prime agriculture in the county official plan and is zoned as agriculture in the township zoning bylaws. The applicant is proposing a setback of 3.9 meters for the new grain bin, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters. The applicant has indicated that the proposed grain bin is within the cluster of the existing bins and provides operational efficiency. Planning staff note that the reduced setback will still maintain sufficient setback for the access of the property, especially for the maintenance. The proposed variance is minor in terms of the overall impact of the property and meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we have correspondence in our package from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No, there has not been.
Okay. Any persons wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer. And having said that, I will open the floor for any questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. Does anyone here wish to speak to this application? We don't have anyone registered online.
We do not. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Matt Repke is here. Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so we'll move on to committee members. Any questions or comments from committee members?
I have none.
No. I feel that the variance is minor and what it's going to be up against the property line is agriculture on the other side without buildings, so I'm fine.
Okay. And the question I have is just a clarification. So the location of the bin is closer to the lot line than the previously, which is 13 feet, but the bins weren't 60 feet away prior. Correct? Like how much are we changing it? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
I might have to look for that, but I know that these bins are coming a little closer to the existing where the bins are, probably by a meter or two at
Okay.
this point of time. Yeah.
And so this setback, will that be to the foundation of the bin or to the body of the bin? You know that one, dear?
Yeah, so these bins are a little bit bigger in diameter. So essentially the central point is staying the same. So just the wider at the bottom gets them a little bit closer to the property line.
So are we still going to have the 13 feet from the foundation to the property line, or is that to the body of the bin?
That will be to the foundation of the bin.
Okay. I assume you're the applicant at the back. Do you want to add anything to that question?
It was a bit of an estimate, so it's somewhere between the foundation and the actual, so.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments from committee members? Okay, we'll move to the decision then. It reads as follows, that the minor variance applied for in application A08/25 for the property described as West Owen Sound Road, Part Lot 4, Division 3, Registered Plan 61R8418, Part 1, Geographic Township of Wellington North, Geographic Township of Arthur, sorry, with a civic address of 9820 Highway 6 to provide the following relief. Number 1, that a reduced interior side yard setback of 3.9 meters be permitted for a proposed new larger grain bin to replace 2 existing grain bins, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that's approved. That brings us to the end of our Committee of Adjustment meeting, so we'll just deal with adjournment. I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of April 22nd be adjourned at 7:26 p.m. Moved by Councillor Hearn, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. So we're adjourned from the Committee of Adjustment meeting. We'll go back to our regular council meeting. And the recommendation to do that would be that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of council at 7:27 p.m. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We don't have any questions registered.
No, we don't.
Okay. We'll move on to adoption of the minutes of the council and public meeting of April 7th. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the regular meeting of council and the public meeting held on April 7th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We don't have any business arising from previous meetings, I don't think, so we're on to items identified for items identified for separate discussion, and I have pulled out for separate discussion item 1A, 1B, 3B, 4A, and 5A. So we'll deal with the resolution to approve all the others. And that would the recommendation would be that all items listed under items for consideration on the April 7th, 2025 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. Moved by Councillor McCabe, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move back to 1A. And the recommendation in this case, this is in regard to the Donville Street, Arthur Cachet developments. Recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the planning report from Asavari, Planner, County of Wellington, dated April 14th, 2025, and that Council support the zoning bylaw amendment, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign bylaw number 25-2025. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McCabe, Councillor Rankin, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yeah,
Councillor
sorry,
McCabe?
don't want me to jump the gun there. And through you, Mayor Lennox, I think I really like this, this application. We need to promote more of this type of building in our township. Back on the 12th of April, I went to a land use seminar with Wayne Codwell, and there was speak about how we need to update our bylaws and catch up with building more buildings or medium or higher density on property that's already set out for residential use. So I don't know how we go about doing that, but I'd like to see if there's a way that we can, I know we probably have to go through the county as well, but if we can update our bylaws so that these kind of applications can kind of speed through quicker. I don't know who wants to talk to that, but I'd be in favor of updating some of our
Darren?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox. Your question comes at perfect timing. Curtis Marshall and I met just last week to put some final discussions on a housekeeping amendment to deal with some of these things. We work on what provincial policy is and also trends we're seeing for come forward as minor variances and zoning amendments, and try and capture those in the zoning bylaw. So fewer planning applications are required.
Okay, that's perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is a certain evolution to that. I mean, we were alluding to it just a few minutes ago when we were talking about the stacked townhouse development, about making sure our regulations keep up. And we've been having some discussion around, well, there's all kinds of different terms, more affordable type of housing, attainable housing at the county. And through some of the work that task force has been involved with, it has included some recommendations. Some already have been implemented around planning policy decisions, but it does take an ongoing effort, and it's an adaptation as our community looks at new housing that looks and feels different. It sometimes raises some concerns. So it's I think to use one of my often quoted sayings is that the best is to have an evolution rather than a revolution, and our policies need to continue to evolve to meet the needs of today. As certainly today is different than, well, if you think of our friend to the south, the needs change about every 15 minutes, but I don't think we need to change quite that fast.
Thank you.
Any other questions or
Nope,
comments?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, have mover and seconder for that one, right?
Yes, Councillor McCabe and Councillor Rankin.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 1B. This is the planning report with regard to the zoning bylaw amendment, removing the holding provision. So a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the planning report from Asavari, planner, that council support the removal of the holding provision, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign bylaw 26-2025. Moved by Councillor Hearn, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Open the floor for questions. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, and through you, again, excuse me, through you, Mayor Lennox. I'm not sure, I guess it's probably for you three. Did we not discuss this property a little while ago?
I don't know if we allowed a building to be built just because it was so close to the dump. And now this is the studies of the site. Is unlikely to be affected by groundwater, surface water, and landfill gas. So I guess my question is, so with this study, what did it entail to make it acceptable, and who's liable, I guess, in the future if there is a problem with the groundwater, surface water, or landfill gas?
Aaron.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So this property was owned by the township, and the township rezoned this property as a condition of a sale to this developer. Because of its proximity to the dump, we thought a D4 study was warranted. Not that we had knowledge of there being any contaminants or anything that would cause a problem. So we added the holding provision to make sure that that study was done. The applicant hired an environmental engineer that prepared that study, and the county had that peer reviewed, and it came back suitable for development.
All right. Good, thank you.
Welcome.
This has been a process in the works for a while. I'm assuming the applicant's still willing to proceed.
Yep, that's right. They're working through site plan approval right now, and I believe they hope to build this spring or summer.
Glad to hear that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 3B. It's in regard to the Lion Merv Weber Playground. I have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report 2025-15, being a report on the award of RFP 2025-009 for the upgrades to Lion Merv Weber Playground, and that the council award proposal 2025-009 to Park and Water Limited at a total cost to the township of $149,651.44, including HST. And further, that the council approve a 6% contingency fee subject to the outcome of the community consultation. And further, that council authorize staff to sign any necessary agreements with Park and Water Limited. Moved by Councilor McCabe, seconded by Councilor Rankin. Thank you. Questions, comments? Councilor Rankin?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lennox. I pulled this when I was interested in actually wheelchair accessibility to the parks. And I've since spoken with Mandy. One of the things I wanted was a description of a friendship swing, which she has given me. It's like two swings facing each other. But apparently we do not have one park in Wellington North that has a swing, like public park that has a swing that can accommodate a wheelchair. And that is apparently very expensive to get that, plus the rubber matting for the wheelchair to go on. So I guess my question is, would we be able to put it in the budget for future years to put money aside to be able to have one park within the township that has such accommodation?
Not sure who to direct that one to. I'm sure that we could put it in the budget, but certainly we would need a more fulsome understanding of the implications of that to do that. So I would look to staff to do that part of it for sure. Brooke, do you want to tackle this one? Yeah, I can't hear you yet. You're muted still.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. Thank you. So yes, essentially we would look for direction to
Sorry, we lost you, Brooke, there for some reason.
for council and the community as well. And if it's determined that that would be desired, that could be something that gets included. And maybe Mandy has something else to add to that, but that's certainly something we can consider for the future.
We lost you temporarily, so we're not sure what all you said. We'll
Oh.
we'll let Mandy fill in the gaps if she
Okay.
can.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox, through you. And my screen seems to have frozen again. I believe Brooke might have been alluding to the Recreation Master Plan. That's something that we're looking to pursue in 2026. And a part of that study, we would be looking at accessibility for our playgrounds, our trails, our parks, everything like that. So that would certainly be something we would want to take into consideration. Just in regards, if I may, to this playground design, the submission did include transfer stations, sensory-rich play elements, and ground level activities to ensure inclusivity for all children. It also did meet, the design also exceeded, the CSA Annex H recommendations and complied with AODA standards. So the CSA Annex H establishes minimum accessibility requirements for newly constructed play spaces, as well as renovations and retrofits to existing playgrounds. It provides specifications for elements within a play area to create a general level of usability for children with differing abilities. And the emphasis is placed on ensuring that children with differing abilities are able to access the diversity of components provided in the play area. If council is interested in staff exploring a fully accessible playgrounds, that includes fully rubberized surfacing as well as ramps for wheelchair accessibility, certainly something that staff could look into for future budget considerations.
Okay. Councillor McCabe.
Sorry, and thank you. You just kind of jogged my mind a little bit, Mandy, when you said about the rubberized surface for wheelchairs and stuff like that, which is great. But in the report, there was message, or I think the surface is going to be wood chips. Is that right? So is that not really accessible for children in wheelchairs, or will we have to replace that in a year or two if that goes out of style and it's rubberized?
Through you, Mayor Lennox, to you, Councillor McCabe. So the engineered wood fiber is considered an accessible surfacing. As it settles, it becomes a matting that strollers, walkers, wheelchairs can go across. So it is an accessible surfacing. But if you want to get the highest level of accessible surfacing, that's where that poured matting would come in.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, I think the other thing I think we should be considerate of too is, and I'm thinking specifically about the playground at Victoria Cross Public School where they have the rubberized surface, is maybe collaboration with the school boards and parent councils to make sure that we're not, if this is a very expensive addition, maybe we can collaborate and make sure that we're not double spending across our communities on this as well. Councillor Rankin.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one more thing, that I was very pleased to see that there's going to be a barrier going along Queen Street, and also that they have the graduated levels of challenging for each level of youth that is going to be using it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And thanks, Mandy and Brooke, for the filling in the gaps for us. Call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 4A. Just in regard to sewage allocation. I better have a drink of water. This one's long. So a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report INF 2025-009, 2025 sewage allocation, and that council review and adopt the 2025 reserve capacity calculations for Arthur and Mount Forest as prepared by Triton Engineering Services Limited, dated March 13th, 2025. And further, the council directs staff to work towards entering a sewage allocation agreement with the following developers in Wellington North: Mamta Developments, Cork Street subdivision, 50 units. 5053745 Ontario Inc. for Wilson Developments at 446 Wellington Street East for 24 units. And Deer Ridge Heights Inc. Subdivision for 75 units. And further, that council award the necessary units to allow the building department to have 20 units of sewage allocation for each urban center, Arthur and Mount Forest, for distribution during 2025 for infill lots. And further, that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign any bylaws to enter into any necessary agreements. And further, that council directs staff to submit a copy of this resolution, copies of the reports prepared by Triton Engineering Services Limited, and the resolution from this report to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Moved by Councillor Hearn, seconded by Councillor Rankin. I'll open the floor for questions, comments. Councillor McCabe.
Excuse me, thank you, and through you, Mayor Lennox. Just curious on table 1 of the Mount Forest applications, there's a score for policy maximum score of 49. It has MAMTA at a score of 52. I was just wondering what that meant, or was it a typo, or how did they score, I guess, above 49? And then I have a follow-up question as well.
Okay, Tammy's got her hand up, so she's volunteering.
Oh,
Go ahead,
Thank you
Tammy.
through you, Mayor, to Councillor McCabe. I did have an error in there. It should be a number of 54 for the maximum score.
gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
You have a follow-up, Councillor McCabe?
Sure. And then on table 2.0, it shows that Arthur has a reserve capacity of 396 units. Does that mean that there's more room for allotments? I don't want to give them away right now. Don't get me wrong. I think we gotta figure that kind of stuff out, but just want to make sure we don't use them up right away. And if that number is a hard and fast number.
Brooke, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So these updated calculations do show some room in Arthur, but we felt that it would make more sense to maintain the freeze on development until the next report on the phase 2 of the wastewater treatment plant comes to council for decision. So staff is working on that report. We hope to have it to council in the next month or so. And at that time, I think it would be appropriate for council to decide on the process for allocations of wastewater for future development at that time, where we could look at that process and then open it up for discussion at that time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Rankin?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lennox. It mentions that there will be an additional municipal water storage needed in Mount Forest. And to begin the process, they were thinking of the construction of a new water storage facility. I'm just wondering if we have an idea what the cost of that would be and what the timeline would be from the time that the decision is made to go ahead until the completion.
Brooke, go ahead.
Through your Mayor Lennox. So staff are working through some technical updates for our master plans related to water and wastewater in both Arthur and Mount Forest. And so we anticipate the costs related to those items of infrastructure would be part of that study. And then also the timeline related to that, likely a couple years that it would take to develop a water storage additional water storage from the time of approval, but that is information that should be coming forward later this year as we work towards those technical updates.
Any other questions, comments? I just had a couple. I remember, I think it was late last year, we had a request from, I think it was Sea Waves Homes in Arthur to have an extension of the expiry of their allocation to give them more time to do the development. And I was thinking specifically of the applicants from Deer Ridge. They've been applying for a number of units over the past few years, and I was wondering where we are in terms of the potential expiry of some of the first of those. Tammy, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. So Deer Ridge did originally have 75 units as a sewage allocation agreement, and it's expired this past March. So that's why they've reapplied for 75 units.
Okay. And then the other one that I was thinking of, and I'm struggling to think of the name of the applicant. It's off Cork Street, behind the sports complex. And I can't think of the applicant, but they've been applying repeatedly over a number of years, and I just wondered where they are in that queue as well. Go ahead, Tammy.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So that's the Sunville subdivision.
Thank
And
you.
they have a total of 141 residential units, and they've received all their sewage allocations over a 2-year application period.
So when would their first expiry be?
I believe it's next year for the first expiry.
Okay. And have we heard anything in terms of their plans to initiate this project?
The last communication that we've had with them is that they've requested a pre-servicing agreement just to have the background information. Their plans are to service it this year. We haven't had an application come in for that agreement yet, but that's what the communications that we've received from them.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 5A, the fleet management policy update. Give me a second to get the right paperwork in front of me. Here we are. We have a recommendation that the Township of Wellington North Council receive for information report CAO 2025-006 fleet management policy update, and that council endorses the updates to the fleet management policy as outlined in this report. And further, the council approves the update to the Township of Wellington North's mileage reimbursement rate to reflect the Canada Revenue Agency's annual rate, and that this rate be adjusted on the same schedule. And further, the council direct the Joint Fire Services Management Team to develop a fleet management policy for fire services vehicles to be considered at a future date. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. Questions, comments? Councillor Hearn?
Yes, I just had one question. Well, first a comment, I guess. I really do like moving to the CRA rate versus us going back and doing paperwork. Sorry. Yes, I just don't have much of a voice, Karen. I'm sorry. Versus doing that paperwork over and over and over again. But my question is, we've seen quite the change in the price of fuel. Could that CRA rate be adjusted downward for an upcoming taxation year? Should that decrease in the price of gas continue?
Okay. You want to tackle that one, Brooke?
Through you, Mayor Lennox. That is a question I think staff will have to get back to you on. I think the trend over the last few years has been that increase. My understanding is that the CRA rates are adjusted on market conditions, and they do get adjusted based on that. So I don't see why they wouldn't adjust down, but I'm not entirely sure of the methodology there. So if we can answer that at a later date, I think that would be what we need to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the fleet policy? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our items for consideration. Any notice of motion this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to community group meeting program report. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report on this evening? Councillor Rankin, thank you.
Thank you. It's just on behalf of the Hospital Auxiliary. We're having an auxiliary lunch on Friday, May the 2nd from 11 till 1, being held at the sports complex. And all the proceeds will be going towards the hospital foundation for equipment for the hospital. And it's a hot meat pie lunch, and tickets are available at the door for $20. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have anything, Councillor Hearn?
Maybe the only things I can report on, I missed the Mount Forest Chamber meeting tonight because they rescheduled it at the same time as my council meeting, which is never on a Tuesday. And I think I have a BIA meeting this week. It was scheduled, and I think there's a bunch of emails that my inbox seems to be lighting up here that it might be tomorrow night. And I do have a GRCA meeting on Friday.
Okay, thank you. Anything from you, Councillor McCabe?
We had a Roma meeting about 2 weeks ago. We have another one coming up in June, and we'll probably get a report from the past meeting very shortly, and I can send that out through Karen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and unfortunately, Councillor Burke wasn't able to be here tonight, but she, on my behalf, went and participated in the celebration at the Legion, not this past Saturday, the week before, with regard to the receipt of their Trillium grant. She was able to pinch hit for me, so it's great to see that yet another community group has been able to tap into those Trillium grant funds to help make our community spaces even more viable for years to come. So I'd like to thank Councillor Burke for doing that for me, and also congratulate the Legion on another successful project. With that, will move on. Do we have a... Oh, we got bylaws for the cultural moment. So we have 3 bylaws this evening. We have a recommendation that bylaw number 25-2025, bylaw number 26-2025, and bylaw number 27-2025 be read and passed. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Hearn. Any questions or comments on any of those? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is our cultural moment.
So we've been having some sound issues, so let's just see how this goes.
The Wellington North Cultural Roundtable presents A Cultural Moment, Dinah Christie. Singer-comedian Dinah Christie was born in London, England on December 29, 1942. The daughter of British-Canadian actors Robert and Margot Christie, she came to Canada at the age of 2. She began her career as a teenager at the Stratford Festival. At 17, she began singing in Toronto folk clubs and night spots, and then continued with live musical reviews with her longtime creative partner Tom Kneebone. In 1971, she bought her beloved Black Shadow Creek farm outside of Mount Forest after falling in love with the rural area while driving back and forth to Stratford with her father, who worked there for many seasons. That same year, she met her husband and life partner Robert Warren. They lived together at the farm until Robert's passing in 2014. Dinah came to national attention as a singing host in 1965 for CBC TV's controversial public affairs program This Hour Has 7 Days. Dinah was a regular performer as one of the home team on CHCH TV's Party Game from 1970 to 1980 with Billy Van and Jack Duffy, and on CTV's Check It Out from 1985 to 1988. She loved performing with the likes of Bob Hope. Dinah loved her career on TV, in film, and on stage, but she adored giving her time to local fundraisers and community organizations. Dinah also employed local seamstresses to help launch her company The Bad Sisters, formed with her younger sister Cedar Christie in the 1990s, which created sustainable products and accessories. Dinah performed, wrote, and directed for the rest of her career on the farm. She was diagnosed with dementia a few years ago and was able to stay at her precious Black Shadow Creek with the support of family and friends. Finally, she had to say goodbye to the farm and the country living that she cherished. She adored her hometown of Mount Forest and the people too. Dinah is now living in a long-term care home in Toronto and is surrounded by love. Her official Facebook page is updated regularly, and many of her performances can be found on YouTube to enjoy at any time.
The great story from Wellington North. Okay, we'll move on to our confirming bylaw. We have a recommendation that bylaw number 28, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at its regular meeting on April 22nd, 2025, be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And just before we adjourn, the Mount Forest Community Center Open House starts tomorrow, Wednesday, from 9 till 8. Hopefully there'll be lots of community engagement with that. A volunteer and newcomer event, it will be in Arthur on May the 1st from 4:30 to 7. And our next regular council meeting will be Monday, May 5th. And then there will be a follow-up open house at the community center on May 7th in Mount Forest at 320 King Street. So with that, we'll move to adjournment. I have a recommendation that the regular council meeting of April 22nd, 2025 be adjourned at 7:57 p.m. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.